Good afternoon, everyone. I am Commissioner Mereda Davis Johnson, and I represent the 5th Commission District of DeKalb County. And we are in Stonecrest, and this is the 5th Commission District. I want to welcome all of you tonight. My heart is full because you came out for this discussion, and I'm so very glad that you're here. I am honored to host this town hall meeting tonight on a topic that is not only important, it is a much needed conversation. First, I would like to say thank you again, and I would like to thank our panelists for taking the time from their busy schedule to be with us tonight. This meeting is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is getting heavy rail to come east to Stonecrest. I believe, and I still believe, the words of Dr. Martin Luther King are true and echoing loudly here this evening. That is, the arch of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And the time is always right to do what is right. I would like to say thank you, and I appreciate MARTA and the CEO, Collie Greenwood, for being here. MARTA is our partner, not our enemy. We have made significant progress in moving this conversation forward. And so the CEO, Collie, was the interim, used to be CEO. Collie Greenwood was just appointed as the permanent CEO of MARTA. So let's give him a hand. Thank you. This Saturday, MARTA will join DeKalb County Empowerment, will join us at the DeKalb County Empowerment Festival to serve the community by providing information on senior rate MARTA Breeze cards, employment information, and other items. So do come out, South DeKalb Mall, this Saturday at 11 o'clock. I have previously talked to 2 of our senators at the state level who both sit on the MARTA committee. That's the Metro Atlanta Rapid Transit Oversight Committee, who supports this effort. And they are Senator Gloria Butler and Senator Tanya Anderson, who could not join us tonight, but they're out of town. There are several developments in Southeast DeKalb that speak the additional need to move this effort forward. Rivian Plant Development, just east of DeKalb, outside of Covington, is bringing nearly 8,000 jobs to the area. Many of those people will live in Southeast DeKalb. They will certainly have to commute. Without rail, they will certainly have to commute through to I-20 East. The Atlanta Regional Commission presented to the DeKalb County Board of Commissioners about 4 weeks ago and informed us that the fastest growing area for development of housing is in East and South DeKalb. Let me repeat that. Southeast DeKalb is projected to be one of the fastest growing areas in the region. The land for development is here in Southeast DeKalb. GDOT is investing $500 million at Wesley Chapel, Greenwood, and Covington Highway. South DeKalb plays a critical role in the infrastructure of this county, regent, and state. And we just don't want to be on the board for discussion. We want to be on the move with discussion, moving towards actualizing a promise that was made many years ago. On your way here today, or on your way home most days, I'm sure that many of you are like me. You do everything that you can to avoid I-20. The traffic is really, really bad. This is a problem that some of us inherited over 40 years ago, and we don't want it to become a problem that we pass on to our children and grandchildren. South DeKalb has paid its fair share for over 40 years, and we have been told so many times that we can't do this. We are not puppets to be led. We are leaders to be followed. So with that, thank you all again for being here this evening, and I look forward to a robust and beneficial discussion that will help us to advance in our journey to heavy rail to Stonecrest. So let's have a candid conversation, a candid and respectful conversation. I will now call upon my Chief of Staff, Demetrius McCoy, to introduce tonight's moderator. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. All right, I'm a pastor, so normally when I say good evening, I like to hear a great response. I'll try it again. Good evening, everybody. All right, thank you so much. Good to hear you all tonight and to be with you. Very quickly, I have the task of introducing our moderator for tonight. Our moderator for tonight is none other than Commissioner Larry Johnson. That's right, we give it up for him. And Commissioner Larry Johnson is a man who really needs no introduction, but for the purpose of introducing him, I'll proceed. Commissioner Larry Johnson was elected as DeKalb County's third commissioner in November 2002 with overwhelming support from the community. He won over 92% of the vote, making him one of the youngest commissioners to ever be elected to serve on the Board of Commissioners. He was re-elected for his sixth term with a landslide victory over his opponent. This past July, Commissioner Johnson became the immediate past president of NACO after successfully serving his term as NACO's president from July 2021 to July 2022. During his presidency, Commissioner Johnson focused his presidential initiatives on making sure counties thrive, technology, health, readiness, infrastructure, vulnerable population, and economic opportunities by uplifting examples of county perseverance and problem solving through the COVID-19 pandemic. He was appointed to the ACCG Board of Managers in May 2020, and he graduated from the University of Illinois at Urbana College, champion with a bachelor's degree in community health, and later earned his master's degree in public health from the University of North Colorado. Commissioner Johnson is married and has one daughter. Please put your hands together for our moderator tonight, Commissioner Larry Johnson.
Thank you, Pastor, Chief of Staff of District 5, and welcome everybody. How you doing tonight? Good. I know it's a thriving Thursday, and glad to see you all here and ready for us to have a candid conversation from what you heard from our host, Commissioner Mereda Davis Johnson, who really brought the charge and the history and how do we come to this point. What I would like to do is that we do have is being televised. I want to just introduce our panelists before I let them open up for their brief remarks. First, we're going to start with our Congressman Hank Johnson. I had the privilege of serving with him as a county commission after he beat me, and then I went to go work for him. You remember that, Hank? And so we worked together, and we had a great time, and now he has moved up to be our congressman. He's a senior member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, a longtime champion of mass transit his entire career, strong supporter of President Biden's Infrastructure and Jobs Act, which will add about $1.5 billion to Georgia public transportation sector over the next 5 years. Congressman Johnson has consistently helped critical funding for MARTA since 2007. The 117th Congress, he introduced the Stronger Communities Through Better Transit Act, H.R. 3744, which will provide $80 billion in federal funds to improve bus and train service, and it's going to be key as we have this conversation, to the metro Atlanta region and around the country. A staunch advocate for heavy rail in South DeKalb, Hank has been working with stakeholders and constituents to urge Georgia Department of Transportation to invest more resources in public transit projects instead of roads and highways, so his constituents can have greater access to efficient, affordable, and high-quality transportation. Let's give it up for our Congressman Hank Johnson.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to introduce to some and present to others our CEO, Michael L. Thurmond. Michael Thurmond was won the 2016 landslide victory to become the Chief Executive Officer of DeKalb County, one of the most diverse counties in the Southeast. Under CEO Thurmond's leadership and partnership with the Board of Commissioners, DeKalb has adopted 6 consecutive balanced budgets without raising residential property taxes. GDOT is investing $2 billion in connecting Georgia, southern, and northern communities. DeKalb is prioritizing upgrades to the regular water system and also including modifying our consent decree with state and federal agencies. Let's give it up for our CEO, Michael Thurmond. Now we have our mayor from Stonecrest, and she's hosting us tonight. Give it up, we're in Stonecrest, y'all. And I love the name, Jazzmin Cobble. And for more than 4 years, Mayor Cobble has served as District 3 City Councilwoman in the city of Stonecrest. And as a fellow resident, she has vested interest in seeing that each of the generations in this city of Stonecrest has the representation, the guidance, and the resources to enjoy a great quality of life. Ensuring that our community can be directly provide those things for our residents of the utmost importance. And she is working to achieve those goals and helping to make things happen. Let's give it up for our mayor, Jazzmin Cobble. Also, we have I call our DeKalb County pastor, and we served together on the county commission, and he was our interim CEO. This is Pastor Lee May. He's the former business owner and elected official who served DeKalb County, Georgia, with distinction and humility as he continuously tries to help those in need and raise the quality of life of all to whom he comes in contact with. And he successfully transitioned out of the world of politics and yet has ventured into an uncharted territory for his life, his wife Robin, by starting a new life-giving church in DeKalb County called Transforming Faith Church. Let's give it up for our pastor, Lee May. Last but certainly not least, and I just heard he's going to be the new CEO of MARTA. But this young man hails all the way from Canada. I thought he was from Candid Drake for a minute. But he is Collie Greenwood, and he is our now CEO, 35-year transit veteran and experience ranging from frontline operations to the executive leadership. That means he's come from the bottom and worked his way up. And so that's very important. Thank you. In his role as interim, Greenwood has led the MARTA, the largest and most ambitious expansion and modernization program since the founding over 40 years ago. Greenwood worked closely with the senior leadership to develop the capital projects to enhance the customer experience, including the addition of new rail cars and electric buses into the MARTA fleet. And hint, get us some rail in South DeKalb. Just threw that in at no extra charge. Give it up for Mr. Greenwood, everybody. And since this is a candid conversation, and I wanted them to start off with about 2 to 3 minute comments, opening statements, and then we'll hear a question or two, and then we're going to open up to our audience. And what we have, because Commissioner Davis Johnson is fancy and high tech, if you put your cell phone up, to this QR code, you'll be able to download the note card, and you write your question, and then it's going to be submitted, and then we'll take that question. All right? So she got it down. So please put your cell phone. Let me see some cell phones go up. Y'all know about these QR codes. And then you can download the note card, and you can put your question on there. And then CEO, the Chief of Staff, or you, Demetrius, he will get the question, and he'll hand it to me. All right? So we'll start with our Congressman Hank Johnson will give us a 2 to 3 minute opening statement.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Johnson. And I never talk in terms of beating somebody.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I just won the election.
All right, that's it.
And so I want to give thanks to my wife, Mereda Davis Johnson, Commissioner Mereda Davis Johnson, for hosting us tonight. I want to thank the CEO for welcoming us to DeKalb County. I want to thank the mayor for welcoming us to Stonecrest. I want to congratulate Mr. Greenwood for his new position. Yeah. Like Drake, who is from Toronto, you started from the bottom, now you're here. And I feel like you know, we as a community have started from the bottom, and we almost there, but there's a couple of more things that we need to do in order to get there. And one of the things is heavy rail to Stonecrest. And I'll tell you, it's not just because we've been paying into MARTA our 1 penny, and then we added, I think, another half penny to that. We've been paying our fair share, but we have not gotten our proportion of the rail service when you compare Fulton to DeKalb. And with particularity, South DeKalb, no rail service at all. And so, you know, there's an equity situation that exists. It's not like we're asking for a handout. We're just asking for our fair share of the dollars, okay? And so when you start talking about Clayton County, when you start talking about Emory, when you start talking about Gwinnett County, rail being extended, but when you, then when the conversations turn to South DeKalb, it's like, it's too expensive. And it's not going to be enough riders on it. There's not enough people living there. And you get all kinds of excuses. It can be done in other places. It can be done in South DeKalb County as well. And I tell you, there's a real need for it when you look out, not just at what's happening today or tomorrow, but when you start looking out 5 years, 10 years, 25 years down the line, you will see more growth coming to this area, and it is underserved by transit right now. And the way that it can prepare for the future for 25 years is to start now. Now, don't wait until then. Let's start now. In fact, we should have started earlier than now, because now we've got this $5 billion plant going up. The Rivian automobile plant going up just 30 miles or so down the road. And you already know how congested I-20 can be. If you go out there right now, you'll see that traffic is kind of congested, although it's flowing smoothly. But when somebody slows down and then there's an accident out there, then everything gets backed up for miles. And it's only going to get worse given our situation. It's only going to get worse because where are those workers? How are those workers, those 50, those 60, it's going to be about 7,500, they're saying, minimum workers at the plant. Not to mention all of the surrounding ancillary businesses that will pop up that will serve those people. And so, you know, just that many people, 7,500 workers at the plant, where are they coming from? And how are they going to get there? Well, I project to you that many of them will be coming from the Atlanta metropolitan area. They will be coming from DeKalb. They'll be coming from Rockdale. They'll be coming from Newton. And so, but for those people that are heading there that live inside, and there's going to be a lot of them that live inside or before you get to the county line, Rockdale, they're going to be using our roads. And so, you know, if we have heavy rail to get mass numbers of people to Stonecrest, and then from Stonecrest, all kinds of transit options can jump off, like these buses that Mereda and I, when we got on the I-20 tonight, we got right behind a bus. On the back of the bus, it said ATL. And what is ATL, the Atlanta Traffic Link Authority? It was put in place to be the kind of, make sure that MARTA had some controls on it. You understand? Put some layers between MARTA and you know, making it more difficult for MARTA to unilaterally make decisions. So one of the decisions MARTA needs to make right now is to, and the MARTA board needs to approve, is to change its locally preferred alternative for South DeKalb to heavy rail. And once that happens, then we're in line to receive from the ATL and the ARC, the Atlanta Regional Commission,
All right.
a movement, and I'm going to finish
All
up,
right,
to a certain
I love
list,
them.
the Regional Transportation Plan, the RTP, has to go on that list before it could be considered for any federal money. And before it can get that federal money, it has to rise from the RTP to the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan, the TIP. Then it's ready for federal funding. So we've got to do all of these things to put ourselves in the pipeline so that if the federal government does another infrastructure bill, and it's very likely that we will do so if Democrats retain the House and Senate and the presidency, just like we did a $1.2 trillion, that was like a quarter of what we really need to do in this country. So once we put some more federal money in place, and then once we get the state government to admit that it funds transit, because that bus that we got behind, that ATL bus, that's not funded by MARTA, not funded by the counties, that's funded by the state. So the state has some funding out there, and they need to do a whole lot more to address the equity issues for transit in South DeKalb. And then it's an environmental issue also, because we get all this traffic flowing through with the pollution, noise pollution, air pollution. You know, it's contributing to the global warming and the climate change.
You want to save some of that.
So yeah, so it's all about environment, equity, and the future, that we need to insist on nothing other than heavy rail, and it can be done. And the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, but it doesn't bend by itself. And that's why we need all of you to be raising your voices about this. So thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate that. I just want to do some special acknowledgments right quick. We have some of our elected folks and appointed folks here. Representative-elect Amari Crawford, wave your hand. Mayor Pro Tem George Turner. Where are you, sir? Okay. Councilman Rob Turner, where are you? Hey, sir. Commissioner Steve Brashaw, Chief of Staff Alicia Brooks. District 4, District 1, Robert Patrick, Chief of Staff Tara Smith. District 7, Lorraine Cochran-Johnson, Chief of Staff Dr. Leah Davis. NAACP President of DeKalb, Lance Hammonds. Where you at, Lance? One of our great leaders on the MARTA board, our chair, Rita Scott. Where's Rita Scott? Rita Scott. And also one of our other board members doing a great job, Rod Friesen is in the house. Where you at, Rod? There you go. And he didn't ask for this, but I got a former bus driver that's retired that's here, that's in there. Where's Joe Edwards? I see him somewhere. Joe Edwards, raise your hand. That's my man. Peace and love. I got Newton County Commissioner all the way from Newton County, Demond Mason. Where are you? Oh, we're going to be here all night. I got to name everybody. DeKalb County Chamber CEO Frankie Atwater. Where are you? Oh, right here. Hey, sir. I saw one of our pastors come in. Quincy Lavelle Coswell Jr. is in the house. Any of our other pastors are here? Stand up 1 second. Wave your hand.
Stonecrest.
Oh. I should have had prayer tonight. So thank you all for coming and being a part. Bill Floyd, former mayor of Decatur, where are you? On the board of MARTA board. How you doing, sir? It's our mayor from Decatur on the board. Jim Derrick, right beside another MARTA board member. Okay, we got a quorum tonight. Richard Odom, former CEO of Rockdale County, in the house. And he'd understand this issue all too well, so thank you, sir. So what we'll do is now we'll go to our mayor of this great city to give us a 3 or 4 minute opening statement. Mayor Jazzmin Cobble.
Thank you, Commissioner. First of all, let me say to all of you, welcome to the city of Stonecrest. I know this is certainly not your first time, and I surely hope that it isn't a long time between now and when we see you again. So thank you all, especially those visiting from other jurisdictions. Welcome to the best city in the state.
That's right.
So on that note, I am really excited about all the attention on Stonecrest, right? Whether it's economic development, whether it's increasing affordable housing, or rather it's transit, it's still about Stonecrest. So I'm always excited to be kind of the topic of discussion, especially because we believe that Stonecrest certainly has a regional impact in this state, and most certainly in DeKalb County. We believe in all the love that I have for DeKalb County. We believe that Stonecrest, as Stonecrest goes, so does the county. So we are excited to be able to partner with everyone to make sure that not only is Stonecrest and South DeKalb at the table in the conversations of how we expand transit to this side of the county. We are just thrilled that we are in a position to be able to have this kind of voice. We certainly are represented by District 5 and Super District 7, but it is an honor to have an individual seat at this table as our residents certainly depend on our government and our leaders, Councilman Rob Turner, Mayor Pro Tem George Turner, Tammy Grimes, and Tara Graves, to make decisions that benefit our residents. And so that regional stretch, that county stretch, that statewide stretch, we believe Stonecrest can lead in that effort. And as we go, again, so does the county. Congressman probably said just about all there is to say about the importance of transit expansion. The opportunities that are in front of us for economic development, and I'll stay on that subject for a second. The ecosystem that surrounds economic development cannot happen without transit. And we are certainly on board with the understanding that without transit, that ecosystem will not be strong. That economic development that we strive for here in Stonecrest will not exist without that transit expansion. So we certainly have that understanding. What I've told a lot of my partners and colleagues, as people ask me almost every day, how do you feel about transit? What do you feel about transit? Where are we going with transit? It's pretty much a daily ask. My number one response is, I'm ready to get to the table with my colleagues and make a decision. I am certainly here to hear your concerns, to hear the things that your input, because it's time for us to make a decision. We've been around and around and around and around, and we have gotten all the data we need. There isn't a number or a statistic that someone hasn't found for us. There isn't a single shred of information I think that we are still without. So it is now time for us to get together, have the tough conversations, come to an understanding, and make a daggone decision so we can move forward. You'll hear Stonecrest say this a lot. We're Stonecrest forward. We believe we're Stonecrest forward. We're DeKalb County forward. We're state of Georgia forward. We are forward in what we're doing. And if we continue to go around in a circle, we surely are not moving forward. So that's kind of why I'm excited to be here at this table, because the ultimate goal is to move forward. And if we do not come to a decision, as Congressman said, we have resources that are at our fingertips. And if we continue to go in circles, those resources will go right past us. The table that we are sitting at today will move away from us if we're still having the same conversation we've had for the last longer than I've been alive. So it's time for us to make a decision.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to our pastor, Lee May, and Lee May and I have the distinction of when the T-Splosh was on the ballot, they had no money in there for South DeKalb, period. And me and Lee May was at the ARC meetings. Every meeting, we were sitting up there fighting in the corner on how can we get some money? How can we get some money? So somehow they found $300 million in one meeting. And they said, well, we're just going to give you a bus. And we said we didn't come for a bus. We came from, you can find us $300 million in 1 minute, because they were trying to get rid of us, because we were on the board of commissioners and we were fighting hard. And so me and Lee May, we got beat up so bad after the meeting because the big folks were trying to get us. But we stuck to our guns because we understood that South DeKalb needed rail, and we inherited this too as elected officials. We weren't here then, but we want to make sure that the next generation did not have to go through what the previous generation. But take it away, Pastor Lee May.
Well, before he starts, though, I just wanted to make amends for my error in not recognizing Pastor Lee May when I recognized everyone else. I want to thank you for your service as a commissioner for District 5, preceding Mereda Davis Johnson, laying the groundwork for her, and then also stepping in to the breach at a time when the citizens needed you as interim CEO. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And the fact of the matter is, I would have never gotten in politics had it not been for this man. I mean, literally. I had no thoughts about running for office or even being in politics before he made the decision to step out on faith and run for Congress. And then a friend of mine asked me, what would you think about running for commissioner? And I told him at that point, I'll leave him nameless. I said, if you tell me what a commissioner does, I'll think about it. That's how little I was thinking about politics, right? And so, Congressman, thank you for the great work that you do as well. I'm thankful to Mereda, my commissioner, Mereda Davis Johnson, for her leadership in this and calling this gathering together. It's critical. It's a really important conversation that we have to have, and it's a conversation that we cannot let go of. It's something that we have to hold tight to this conversation, because the fact of the matter is, as Commissioner Johnson, Larry Johnson was mentioning, yeah, we fought, that was a fight 13, 14 years ago. You know, the first list of projects for the T-Splosh at the time had $0 for I-20. And then we already knew. We did a press conference, I'll never forget, and I told them, I told the media, I said, look, I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. It's at $0 now, and then they're going to come back with some crumbs, like a few million, and expect us to be happy with it. And that's what they did. And we kept fighting, and ultimately, I think what you see with the I-20 rail project is that it keeps being put to the back burner. It just keeps, elected officials come and go. MARTA CEOs come and go. My prayer is that you stay for a long time, my brother. But we've seen a lot of you. It's just fact, because it's not an easy job, let's be clear. And staff come and go, but this project has still been lingering out here for 4 decades, you all, 4 decades. And so we got to hold on to this conversation. And let me stop real quick. I'm not only representing myself and our church, Transforming Faith Church, I'm also representing a coalition of pastors, the DeKalb Pastors Christian Alliance. And we have some of our members here, our pastors here. We're an alliance of about 77 DeKalb pastors, primarily located in South DeKalb. And so this particular issue is something that we've decided that we're going to be all in for. And we're not going to let go. We're people of faith. And so if we need somebody at the table praying, we're going to be praying. Because this affects the people that we represent, our members, that are in need of equitable transportation options, affordable housing, economic development, jobs, well-paying jobs as well. And that is all wrapped up in this conversation. So there's a few things that I believe that we have to have, that when we leave this place, that we have to hold on. We need people. Every other line, whether it's here in the Atlanta metro area or any other projects around the country, have always had people, advocates, that have said, this is our responsibility. And I'm not talking about government folk. I'm not talking about quasi-government folk. I'm not talking about elected folk. I'm talking about advocates, whether it's the business community, whether it's advocacy organizations, whether it's just regular taxpayers who are committed to seeing a project like this move forward. So we need people. We need a plan. So our mayor said we need to make a decision. Now, the reality is there have been decisions that have been made over these past 4 decades. And decisions are made, and people expect after the decisions are made that the people, that we're not going to pay no more attention. And honestly, that's been what's happening. I'm sorry. And then the final thing, after you have the people, the plan, you got to have the provision. The provision, right? The plan is the vision, but you got to have the provision. Meaning we're going to have to come up with more local dollars to fund it. That means if you want MARTA, and it's a tough conversation, but at some point we're going to have to pay a little bit more. Yes, we want the state, and they need to, because DeKalb has been a part of funding this region on so many levels, with Grady, with MARTA, and it's supported the rest of the state, and they have never montied up for the work that we've been doing. But the reality is we're still going to have to come forward with some local dollars to be matched, as a congressman stated, to be matched with state dollars and ultimately with federal dollars to make this happen. So again, I'm excited to be a part of this conversation. At the DeKalb Pastors Christian Alliance, we have 4 areas that we focus on: education, civic engagement, public safety, and economic development. And this is wrapped right around economic development. We believe we can make some intentional differences, an intentional impact here in our county through the work of our churches.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Pastor May. And it's okay. I saw Senator Fort just walked in. Where are you, Senator Fort? Good to see you, sir. Glad you came all the way from the west side. Thank you, sir. And as we going on, we do have a lot of questions already on our QR code. It's been downloaded, but if you need this index card, we'll pass it around. You can put your question on the index card as well. So just wave your hand, and we'll get that to you, and you can have it. So thank you to the ones on TV and also the ones in the audience who've downloaded the QR code. And now we're getting a lot of questions coming in. Now we'll go to our CEO, Greenwood, from MARTA.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone, for inviting MARTA to this event. We're actually very pleased to be here. We're thrilled to be a part of the conversation, to be, in the title is a candid conversation, and I think we really need that. We need to reset or review what's been said, what's been done, and where we're going. And I couldn't be happier to be here. I think when I thought about tonight, I thought, what is it? It's a conversation about heavy rail, and it's a candid conversation. What are the key points that you, Collie, think are required to get this done? And the two words that came to me were leadership and alignment. And I want to start with leadership, because when it comes to leadership, I just want to tell you, as perhaps one of the only, if not the only, voice up here that is non-elected, I've been in the room with the folks that are up here with me and Commissioner Mereda Johnson on many occasions. Here, inside Atlanta, different states, different cities, I've just been in the room with them on many occasions, and I can tell you, candidly, that the way they speak here is the way they speak everywhere. And the conviction and the passion that they have for DeKalb and the support and love that they have for MARTA is unwavering regardless of who they're talking to or where they're at. And so I think it's important that I come out and say that, because you have strong leadership, you have strong supporters. They speak with conviction about the past, the present, and future of DeKalb and MARTA. And as a transit professional, I can say to you that it's heartwarming to be in a room where everyone came out because of their general interest in transit, because of their collective interest in moving forward together in solving problems, and it's not always that way. So let me just start by saying that MARTA is very pleased to be here. In terms of the MARTA leadership, our board members were already introduced, but I'll say it again. You know, board member Jim Durrett, Bill Floyd, Rod Frierson, and board chair Rita Scott are here because they wanted to be here. They're here because the topic of DeKalb and transit comes up often, and they speak from the heart when it comes to solutions and finding a way to do what we need to do. And they're not alone. I would just ask the MARTA staff in the room to stand for a second and just show yourselves. Thank you. And I promise you, we did not ask anyone to come. They are here because they want to hear this, as I do. I myself find a bit of a disadvantage having been disconnected from the decades of the conversation, but something like this is ideal so that I get a true sense of from the grassroots in terms of what it is that we're dealing with. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention VHB's principal consultant, Grady Smith, who is right here and works on behalf of DeKalb County and on behalf of MARTA, and ensures that there is leadership and alignment every step of the way. So Grady, we're really grateful that you're here with us tonight. As for myself, from a leadership perspective, you know, MARTA will tell you that I'm often saying that the customer has to be at the center of everything we do. And I've said in the past, if you're not doing it with the customer and for the customer, then you're doing it to the customer, and that's not the way to go. So as much as we can listen and hear, learn and assimilate and bring back the information into the plans moving forward, that's the point of MARTA being here tonight. I think it's important that we recognize the future of our great coexistence, and that it starts with this kind of conversation. And then that's the leadership part. When it comes to the alignment, I'll speed up, but when it comes to the alignment, I think we're actually more aligned than some people would think. Based on the conversations I've heard and even some of the comments here tonight, we agree that high-capacity transit is one of the most significant advances that we can make in DeKalb County. We've heard that, you know, tonight we've heard about development, education, housing, jobs, and how they all hinge on transportation. We agree that a candid conversation is a great way to revitalize this effort, and that plans that were discussed and talked about and developed years ago need to be reviewed, need to be updated, and there are a lot of things that you know, that happen. I mean, change happens, and zoning happens, and origins and destinations change, but that's okay. As long as we're together and we've got the dream in front of us, then we can have those conversations. So in closing, we're here, I'm focused on listening, making sure that I understand and not react too quickly, and making sure that I take that message and assimilate back into the plans that we're doing. And hopefully I'll get some more time to speak later on in the evening, so I'll return the mic to you.
Thank you, sir. Give him a great hand. Thank you. Now, go to our last presenter, panelist is our CEO, Michael Thurmond.
Good evening. Good evening. I've been in so many meetings in DeKalb. I've been in so many meetings, very much like this meeting. And the theme of the meeting is that for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, we've been trying to do fill in the blank, and it hadn't happened. For the last 5, 15, 20 years, we've been trying to fix the sewer system. But guess what? We did it. For the last 5, 15, 20 years, we don't get any economic development in the black community in the Snapfinger Basin. We've approved nearly 300 new economic development projects in that basin. For the last 5, 15, 20 years, we couldn't balance the budget. Well, we balanced it, and it got $140 million in the bank. For the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, well, since the pandemic started, black folk won't get vaccinated. 2 weeks ago, we were in Stonecrest, and 2,500 mostly black folk got what? Vaccinated. So what I'm saying to you is, if T.D. Jakes was here, he'd say, look, don't focus on what people tell you, what hadn't happened. Focus on the possibility of what can happen. One of the basic leadership principles I deal with, and I hope we don't do this. You ever been to a meeting in church, in the community, meeting go on 30 minutes, an hour, and everybody talk about what is wrong or what we don't have? That's fine, but spend half the time focused on the assets you do have. Because what you do, you take your assets and you leverage them against your liabilities, and that's how you solve a problem. So an asset that you have that we have not had is Collie Greenwood. I'm just telling you, he's different. An asset you have that you never had is the chair of a board named Rita Scott. Stand up, Rita Scott. Stand up. Let them see you. First ever in the history of MARTA, an organized labor professional serving as chair of the MARTA board. Had never happened. And they told me it wasn't going to happen. That's what they say. You know, they say, I don't know who they is, but they always say. For the first time, we got 4 DeKalb board members who have a similar conscience and focus and attention, and they listen to what the people of DeKalb are telling them. So with that, I stop, and I just, please, as we solve this problem, and the only way you solve the problem is you think about your assets. And by the way, and y'all not going to believe it, and I'll stop. For the first time, for 40 years, we've been talking about heavy rail, BRT, buses. For the first time 2 years ago, DeKalb County adopted a comprehensive transit plan. Am I right, Grady? Can you explain to my friends why that's so important? Now, all this fussing, all this talking, and we never had a plan. My time is up. I'm going to drop the mic on that.
Yep. All right. And that's good our CEO said that, because part of the possibility thinking and asset thinking was we always would focus just on the half a penny. And when you focus on the half a penny, it always said you didn't have enough. But when you go to places like D.C., and I've been to Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, they've sold air rights above the highway. And those air rights have helped to pay for transit and other projects. So we got to get outside of the thinking that the sales tax is the only way to glory, and that we got tax allocation districts, CIDs. And so that's part of this candid conversation that our commissioner Davis Johnson wants us to have on getting outside of the box. People are not in boxes. We got to get outside, and that's why this conversation is so important. So I'm going to go to our first question, and this is from Nicholas Daniels, and I can't read a lot of handwriting, but I'm going to try my best. And this is for at least one panelist or two. We're not going to have everybody have to respond to every question, because I'm going to try to get as many of these questions answered. And whatever we can answer, Mr. McCoy is going to put this on a spreadsheet. It's going to be listed as part of this video, and we're going to get these questions answered to you. But this is a great question from him. It says, DeKalb County suffers from general infrastructure disinvestment, including sidewalks, bike lanes, and bus shelters, and frequent bus routes. What type of supplemental infrastructure can we expect along with the future heavy rail extension?
Yeah, I'll answer that. You know, the federal government takes your money in taxes, and then it remits those tax monies back to the states for various things, transportation among them. And it's not well known, but the fact is that a lot of the highway money that the federal government, well, actually all of the highway money that the federal government sends back to the state of Georgia goes through the state DOT. The DOT has a legal opinion that it rests on, which some say is not well grounded, but that legal opinion holds that none of the state's transportation money, none of the DOT money can be spent for anything other than roads. So road building, the road building industry has captured Georgia legislators and governors. And so all of the money that the federal government sends in can be spent for transit. Transit is like buses, trains, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be for road building. And so when we have a governor in place who is not beholden to the road building industry and who can put together a DOT operation that is not road building oriented, but is more 21st century focused towards transit. So where we can get people out of cars, where we can get people who don't have cars to locations where they can work. You know, until we have that kind of thinking in the state, then we will be at a loss to provide for more sidewalks, bike lanes, bus covers,
shelters.
Yeah, bus shelters, those kinds of things. So we need change on the state level, and we need to make sure that we keep in place. We got 2 senators from Georgia, 2 United States senators who are of the mind to vote for infrastructure, and we're going to have a representative, whether or not it's me or someone else that Larry might beat me one day. You're going to have representation that can fight to bring federal dollars into our areas, and so we can't think about the fact that, okay, we just have the local sales tax and we're going to have to go up, and I mean there's other sources of revenue that can come from the state that we can do a whole lot with.
Thank you, Congressman. You picked up the mic.
Oh, yeah, I was just, as the congressman spoke of bus shelters, I completely concur, and funding is the key. But I did want to say that in the meantime, MARTA has embarked on this 1,000 amenities program, so that over the course of 5 years, we'll be putting in amenities at the pace of 200 a year in all of our jurisdictions that we serve, including DeKalb. So you will see progress in that area. In terms of shelters, benches, garbage receptacles, making sure that happens. And the comment about additional services like bus services in other areas that kind of bring people to the high capacity route. We're also looking at, arterial bus networks in DeKalb to make sure that we can, it's not just about the corridor itself, but it's about getting people there. We'll be advocating for safe streets, safe routes to transit, sidewalks, lighting, things like that. It's not all in MARTA's capability, but we are certainly, what we can't do, we can absolutely advocate for. And again, like I've said before, we've got great partners up here that'll help us in that battle.
Thank you. Last comment on this one.
And I will add, the governing authority, the commissioners, and myself with the late Jeff Parker, when we were asked about another penny, our position was you got to spend the one penny you got more correctly, right? And part of that, you may have not noticed, but it's been about 80 new bus shelters built in DeKalb County. You notice? Well, give Rita Scott and our board members a hand, because they delivered on that. They delivered on that. And I don't know whether you also noticed, we've hired 8 individuals and bought equipment to try to keep the shelters clean. The thing that grates my nerve the most is to see a mother standing in the rain waiting for a bus trying to get to work. And that's the position I left with Jeff Parker. That's what I asked Rita Scott to take the position, and that's what I told Mr. Greenwood. We want a fair share of the penny we're already paying, $140 million a year. And more coordinated, is that right?
That's
bus
right.
routes.
That's right.
And did he do it? And we're not there yet, and Mereda Davis Johnson said it, Larry Johnson said it, we all stood together. As far as sidewalks and other things, you all passed the SPLOST. DeKalb got its first SPLOST in 2017. We've never had a SPLOST until is that right? And I hope you notice streets getting paid that haven't been paid in Stonecrest and in unincorporated. What I'm saying is that we can change how things operate in this county. Now look, well, I'll stop because I'm running out of time.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to go to a question from Faye Cofield. This is for MARTA. Money spent on expanding the trolley in the Beltline instead of southeast DeKalb. The trolley has not been profitable at any expected time. So why are you expanding it in that area? Mr. Greenwood.
Thank you. So, the decisions in terms of the priorities that MARTA is going to operate under, the things that we're going to build, these are decisions that don't happen overnight. They're decisions that are made collectively between MARTA, stakeholders, many different partners that come to bear on this. So yes, the Streetcar East extension has been something that's been, prioritized for several years. I can't really, it's really difficult to sit here and speak about the importance of one area over the other and the importance of one project over the other, because I can assure you, if the folks that are waiting for the streetcar extension were in this room, the room would be divided in terms of what's a more important project. So the problem that MARTA faces is that we are a system that serves everyone. At the end of the day, when the decision's made and when the funding is identified and when the plan is set, then it's easier for MARTA, because then we go. That's what we do, is we build and we operate. And so once DeKalb's interests are in that pipeline, then we go. Until then, until we're able to come together on a decision, as we've been speaking about here tonight, we do have to wait until we get it together and have a plan to move forward.
All right, thank you. Just want to acknowledge Kadada Gray, the Chief of Staff for Representative Becky Evans. Ms. Gray, thank you so much for being here. All right, this is a question from Edwin McRae. Why is it taking so long for heavy rail to come to South DeKalb? The money taxes have been collected for over 40 years. Who is the group holding up the rail from coming to South DeKalb? What more is there to study that has already been studied? That's for anybody. Okay, grab that mic right there. Grab a mic.
You know, there's always an excuse. You know, there's always people trying to tell us what we need. And if some of us listen to that, but we won't. We're here today to advocate for heavy rail in South DeKalb. Our decision has been made. We want heavy rail in South DeKalb. And so, don't give us options. You know, I tell people every day my story when I got accepted to 3 law schools. Didn't have a penny. People would say, she ain't going there. She can't do that. You need to look at this option. Maybe you should do this. Or maybe you should do that. But I'm from the country, and I'm from a freed slave city. And I know what I could do. And I know that if I got accepted, that was one big challenge that I've already had achieved. And as the pastors say, sometimes you just have to step out on faith. Because if you know you're doing the right thing, you're not going to listen to options that people give you that you know that we need. And so that has been our problem, having other people tell us what is best for us. And so we through with that.
Come on.
You know, we through with that. We know that we need heavy rail in South DeKalb.
Yeah.
And we know that we're not going to stop until we get heavy rail in South DeKalb. So we don't want to hear about the options. You know, we don't want to hear about light rail. We don't want to hear about bus rapid transit. The only thing we want to hear is how are we going to be connected to the heavy rail that comes to South DeKalb. So thank you.
All right. All right. Our next, we won't touch that one. We're going to go to a question from. All right. We're going to go to a question from a Morehouse School of Medicine student, and they ask, who will regulate the overall pollution from methane to carbon associated with heavy rail, and make sure that we will counteract the emissions? What is the plan?
Yeah, well, electricity doesn't emit greenhouse gases, doesn't emit emissions, and so it's clean energy. It's green. It is the way that we're headed as a country and as a world. We need to get away from fossil fuels. We need to get away from everybody having to be in their own car, because I mean, if everybody is in an electric car and we're still stuck in traffic, you know, we may not be emitting greenhouse gases, but we really are, you know, our money, I mean, we're tying up our productivity. We're stuck on the roads. We're not able to get home with our families, and we just continue to build more roads. You know, nobody ever said that we shouldn't build a road because we don't have the people to drive on it.
Just build it.
But they say that we can't have rail because we don't have enough people that are going to ride on it. So we have to change our thinking. If we build it, they will use it. And it will it'll increase everyone's quality of life to not have to be stuck in traffic all the time. Wouldn't it be nice if you were able to get a rideshare vehicle or a van to come to your home, pick you up, take you to the MARTA station where you could catch the rail, which would then take you all the way to Buckhead, all the way to Georgia 400, wherever you want to go. And it would bring airport and bring people out here, as Mayor Cobble mentioned, to shop, to work, to spend their money on retail. You know, it just makes our whole life, it gives us more options in living, to get out of our cars and start doing things in transit. And so, you know, that's the way we need to go. It's clean, it's not going to be polluting, it's going to help stop the pollution. So the Morehouse, the gentleman from Morehouse School of Medicine, this is going to be good for our environment. Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am, doctor, future doctor. It's going to be good for the people for quite a few reasons.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we'll go to another question we have. Will local dollars come from the existing 1% MARTA tax, or will an additional tax referendum be required to support heavy rail to Stonecrest?
I think that remains to be seen. When the federal government is kicking in money to the states, and the state has leeway how to spend the money if they so choose, they can choose, just like we were behind that ATL Link bus tonight, right at we got on I-20 at Panola Road, going eastbound, got right behind the bus. And Mereda said, I wonder where that bus is going. And I know, it rolled right past Stonecrest. It was going on to Rockdale, maybe Newton, maybe further out, I don't know. It's a big secret. All we know is we had these parking lots. We had these parking lots parked along the highway, along the expressway, for folks to come in and park their car and be able to get on a bus. And that bus is paid for by the state, and the state is telling us we can't do anything for transit. So we have to have a reshaping of the mindset on the state level, because the local governments are collecting money to take care of the streets, to do the sewers, the water, parks,
Public safety, everything.
Public safety, garbage. It's only so much that you can put on our state, on our local elected officials, who are doing a tremendous job with the money that they have. And so, we need to get out of this mindset that it's got to be a local match. It may end up being that way, but that's not the way that it has to be. Let's start looking for other alternatives.
Pastor May?
And it shouldn't be the start. So I mentioned earlier that we might have to consider, additional funding, here in DeKalb County. And I just said as a possibility, Brother Blackman, it's a possibility. But the reality is we also need to look at how we are currently allocating our funding across the board, because if heavy rail is high priority, then the funding that we're currently spending should also be high priority as well. So there may be some adjustments in there just as a part of the conversation. So let's be clear on that, because there's so much. The Congressman mentioned so much that needs to be done. All these, it's not just a plan. We got the transit plan that the CEO just talked about. You got the comprehensive transportation plan that's been, and you got plan after plan after plan. You got the MARTA plan, right? You got, they got a plan. We got to make sure that plan matches up with our plan, and so, again, I just want to go back to this, because I'm going to keep pushing on this, that the people in this room that are not government workers, right, and not working for MARTA and all of that, it's us that's going to be the difference maker, y'all. Commissioner Mereda Johnson said it very clear. This is what it's going to be. And we all need to have that mindset that this is what it's going to be, and we're going to do what it's going to take to make it happen, which means we got to organize. We got to be loud. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, y'all. We got to be consistent. We got to show up to, I don't want to, because I remember these meetings at the Board of Commissioners. But you got to make your voice heard consistently at the board meetings. You got to go to the MARTA meetings and make your voice heard consistently. You got to show up to the Atlanta Regional Commission consistently. And when they have public comment, we have to be verbalizing, vocalizing it. We got to get the business community. The Stonecrest Mall, urban retail, whatever the latest owner of the mall is, they need to be a part of this because they're going to benefit more than the people. They need to be at the table, putting their dollars on the table, saying, all right, let's organize. There needs to be a structured entity that is guided by the people that is going to be this complete advocate day after day after day until this thing happens. And I'm going to say it about 5 more times before we leave here because CEO got 2 more years. Commissioner Mereda Davis-Johnson is not going to be here forever. She's made it clear. At some point, although she's young, she wants to leave too, Mayor. You don't want to die in this seat, do you? Just at some point, they're going to get out like I got out. And I'll just leave it like that.
All right. Mayor Cobble had a statement, then we'll go to our next question.
So,
then the CEO.
Really, Pastor May kind of said, well, my question, and I guess I'm posing this to everyone, but you kind of brought that question out through your comments is you were given instructions on what to do, right, and what is the process. So that was where my question was rooting from. If we know what we want, who do we tell, and what is the process, right? Because this is a great forum, right? And the majority of the room is on the same side, right? And right. So if we're all talking to each other about the same thing that we already know we have in common, whom is missing from this room? And do we know who and what the process is to get to the finish line, right? Because this is like church, right? Right? We're in here, we're praising the same Lord, right? We know all the hymns together, right? This is great. So let's inform what the process is and who we should be advocating to so we can see us get to a finish line.
I think that the Rev here just said it. We got to go to the meetings. And I think that Hank has said it. We got to make this a priority for MARTA. And we got my friend Rita Scott here and my friend Rod. Where's Rod? Oh, I'm looking right. Both of you all stand and turn around. I'm proud to say that both of these folk and the president, the chair of MARTA, both live in the 5th district in South DeKalb. So we know who to contact. We just got to get MARTA to put their priority where our priority is. So, but I think Lee and Hank has said it. We got to go to these meetings. We have to tell people we can't do it alone. And so not only do we have this crowd here tonight, it is streaming on DCTV. It's also streaming on my face page, Commissioner Larry Johnson's face page, and Congressman Hank Johnson's Facebook. So the word is getting out. It's not just us in this room tonight, but it's DeKalb County.
Thank you so much. CEO, you want to speak before I go to my next question?
Oh, I would just comment on what Reverend May said. He said I only had 2 years. So, look, I'm going to do all I can to support Mereda Davis-Johnson, the commissioner. I am in the 4th quarter, and there's 2 minutes left on my clock as CEO. but I got 3 timeouts, so this could take a while before I get out of here. So.
All right. All right, before we get to, we got our QR questions. Demetrius?
Yep.
All right.
First question, Zachary Starbuck. Where do you envision these heavy rail stations being located, and is there a plan to alter the MARTA map?
All right, where do we look for the heavy rail stations to be located?
Yeah, so the plan that is most talked about is extending MARTA heavy rail from the Indian Creek MARTA station down 285 to I-20, and then from 20 on out to Stonecrest. And if that were the case, then you would have probably stations located at the key intersections along 285 going to 20, and then along 20 going to Stonecrest Mall. Now, it's complicated now because of the $500 million being spent to expand 285 and I-20, which is going to increase noise pollution and air pollution while expanding the capacity of those roads and that intersection to accommodate more traffic that is coming, no question about it. But in doing that expansion, it implicates the ability of MARTA to utilize that route to get to Stonecrest Mall. So whether or not the right-of-way will accommodate the expansion along 285 to Stonecrest is questionable. But there are other routes to Stonecrest Mall from the Indian Creek MARTA station.
Yeah.
And so, you know, going down Covington Highway, for instance. So, you know, all of that remains to be dealt with.
And
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner, can I add to that
Pastor
real quick? And so I'm glad the Congressman brought up the, was it $500 million investment into that interchange? And for some of y'all like, what? 500 million? So essentially that interchange is gonna look like the Dunwoody interchange at Perimeter and all of that for once they get started. I mean, they're gonna completely revamp that, and that's been in the works for some years. And when I heard about it the last year that I was in office, and I went to the state, I was like, let's talk about this, because it appeared to me to be in almost in conflict with the I-20 rail extension because of the use of the right-of-way and all of that, the reconfiguration of that. I'm saying that to say, again, another reason why we got to have independent eyes looking at this and always watching is because what will happen is that you'll have other plans, DOT plans, or plans that come out of ARC, or, you know, things like that, that could be in conflict. And the next thing you know, they say, well, we can't do that because of these plans over here. And the question they asked me at the state is, well, would you have us not, at that time, that number was 300+ million. Would you have us not invest 300-something million into that? And that project, it would have occurred well before this MARTA project. So it put the county at a dilemma. You know, do you take this money that's right here, that could only be used for this? It couldn't be used for, because I asked the question, why can't we just put that to I-20? And legally, well, at least that's what they told me, it couldn't be. But I would love to hear from the CEO about the design in relationship to the state plan development for I-285 and I-20, and how that would affect the latest plans for I-20 going down 285 to 20.
Thank you, Pastor. That's a great question. And that's what I alluded to earlier when I started and said, you know, the plans that we had reviewed and had in place some 10 years ago have to change because so much has changed since then, and that I-20 corridor usage is a prime example. I'm going to turn to Mr. Grady Smith in a second and ask him to just kind of expound on what I'm about to say, but really, what MARTA has started to do in anticipation of a funding plan and a consensus and another charge to get something done is started to take a whole look at the South DeKalb corridor and look at exactly that question. Where else can we go? What else can we do? Because just because somebody decides to use the road you wanted to travel doesn't mean you stop. It just means we have to regroup and figure out what the best use of our resources are and how best we can do it. So Grady, if you wanted to talk a little bit about mode and alignment, that's one of the things that we typically do is when by the time you get to a locally preferred alternative, there's been a lot of study about the alignment that you're going to use, the destinations and the origins, the mode you're going to use, and the stations themselves, the locations of the stations and the designs of the stations. So perhaps Grady can help us out by talking a little bit about those technical features.
Thanks, Collie. So as Collie alluded to, we're going to revisit all that because of GDOT's plans, right? So they are expanding that interchange, as the Congressman mentioned. And they're also looking at express lanes, which are the lanes that, the Lexus lanes, right? The lanes that you pay to use.
Got to pay for those lanes that we're already paying for, and now a special class of folk who can afford it
I've got some
can
hecklers up
pay
here.
to use the lane that we paid for so that they can get where they want to go quicker and watch us languishing in the traffic.
All right.
So with those changes, MARTA is quickly revamping and looking at the heavy rail alternative in the I-20 corridor. And so that process, we're starting now. So we're looking at all the impacts associated with the express lanes and how that might impact where we could place the heavy rail or other alternatives within the I-20 corridor. So that's the process we're embarking on now. There will be a series of public meetings coming up in November, of which we're going to be coming to the public with the data and information on cost, impact, ridership, and all of that information will be used to update the locally preferred alternative. So we'll be looking at where the stations ought to be, right? If with the right-of-way being taken away, we may need to be elevated in some places. We may need to go under in other places. So it's gonna increase the cost. It's gonna have some impact, but we're working through that information now. We're gonna do that with the public.
All right. Thank you.
Y'all have been out 75, right, going northbound, and you've seen all of those flyovers, if you will, for people who are paying extra, and it can be done. Don't let anybody tell you that we can't have heavy rail in South DeKalb because it's too expensive.
Thank you. Let me go to our question.
Commissioner Johnson, I know okay. You want to move. I know. I'm sorry. We're in Stonecrest.
We're in your city. We're in your city now. You got it.
Grady, I'm going to ask this as if I don't know the answer because I think this is something that people are thinking. Right? Whose job is it to make sure that as we as the county and the cities are working to put our transportation master plans together, our transit master plans together, as we're working with our partners in MARTA to create a plan for expansion of transit, whose job is it to make sure that we are at the table when the state is making decisions that conflict with all the hard work we're putting in to create these plans? And I ask that, one, because I think people are thinking about it, right? But also because I want to make sure that as the future leaders of governments are making decisions about expansion of anything, that we understand that it's not just about making a plan that stays at home. That if that plan has to be integrated into a regional, a state, or a federal plan, that we know where to take that plan and make sure that we are at the table, that we are in discussions when other plans are happening around us so that ours reconciles and is infiltrated in theirs. One of the things I've heard a lot of people say to Stonecrest is, You need a plan before you can come and ask for money, right? And there's this joke around Stonecrest that all you do is plan. You got a master plan for this, and a parks plan for that, and a transportation plan for this, and you just plan. And then once you get the plan, then what do you do? And our response is, now we have to find the funding to take the projects out of the plan, right? So as we make projects and plans, help us understand as a community that once we make the plan, there are so many more steps to ensure that what we want to bring to fruition can actually happen, because we're at the right tables, having the right conversations, so that our plans don't get pushed aside and trumped, and I don't mean that literally, by state plans or federal plans that just cause us to derail, pun intended, the plans that we set for our community. That's a long way to ask a simple question. I know.
So Congressman Hank Johnson mentioned at the beginning of his speech about the importance of the Atlanta Regional Commission. The Atlanta Regional Commission is the metropolitan planning organization by federal law, and that organization is responsible for developing a regional plan that does what you asked, Mayor, that brings together all of the local plans into a regional plan. That plan by federal law has to be cost feasible, right? It has to show where the revenues are coming from to pay for all the various projects within the plan. And then secondly, it has to look out into the future, 25 to 30 years. So to the point of delivering projects within the planning process, the folks that got the money gets the projects, right? The projects are in the plan, you got the money, you're in the plan, you move forward. If you don't have the money, you might be in the plan, but you're not gonna move forward. And as the Congressman said, that's the Regional Transportation Plan. The RTP is the 30-year plan, and then there's the short list, the Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP, that the Congressman talked about. That's the projects that are in the short-range plan that are moving forward. So you gotta be in the plan, but you also gotta have the money to deliver the projects. As the pastor said, the provision is a big part of ensuring that the projects move forward.
Yeah, and part of
and so the standard funding formula depends on I think it's a 60% or a 50% federal share, and with the corresponding share being paid by the local government. But as I've said, well, I did not say this. That is not etched in stone forever, that it has to be a 50-50 or a 60-40 split. The federal government can do a 80-20 split or a 90-10 split. So, anything is possible. And then it doesn't, so that local matching money, it can be local money or it can be state money. And so when you have a change of thinking at the state level and a change of policy at the state level, then you can get state money, because the Atlanta metropolitan area fuels the state. And so the state needs to do more to help the Atlanta metropolitan area, South DeKalb in particular. And so, that's what we're talking about.
All right, thank you so much. And we got one more question, because the host is saying we need to close it down.
Okay, from Donna Thomas, what does construction look like for heavy rail? What is the start time to build?
Start time, we're not talking like tomorrow. We're talking like 5, 10, 25 years down the line, that we have to start planning for the future. And so we're doing this, y'all. Hold on. I don't want to be, this is an honest conversation.
Candid conversation.
Right? Honest and candid conversation. This is not going to happen overnight. It's something that we have to plan for, and that takes time. And so how much time it will take, I don't know. But I do know that we must move the ball forward, doing everything we need to do right now. And then as we move forward in the future, anything is possible. There's nothing that is etched in stone that this has to take 25 years, but it could.
And Congressman,
But however long it takes, we need to be working for it, because the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, but it takes us to bend it. And so however long we had to bend, that's how long we have to bend.
Mr. Commissioner, if I could, since the CEO brought Grady up, I'm bringing it back up too, because I think you have the answer to this. Can you tell us, number one, the modern day cost to take from Indian Creek, based upon the latest plans, forget about what DOT is doing, what the cost would be to take from Indian Creek down I-285 to Stonecrest? What would that cost be, number one? And then after you answer that, I got another question for you on that.
Is that cost or time?
Cost first.
So the early estimates of cost, and we're still working through those numbers, is estimated somewhere around $6.5 billion to $7.5 billion. Now,
Billion, would it be? Would it be?
Would it be?
Would it be?
The initial cost estimates for the heavy rail line to Stonecrest back in 2012 was a lot less than that. It was roughly $2 billion.
It was $2 billion, yes.
And so now, because of the right-of-way issues that the Congressman talked about, because of inflation, cost of materials, and all of that, the estimate is, as I said, somewhere between 6.5 and 7.5.
Okay, Grady. So now,
Give you a frame of reference, though. The 2017 tax cut, 85% of which went to the top 1%, was $1.7 trillion. $1.7 trillion given to the top 1%, 85%. So can you imagine when we changed tax policy in Washington, D.C. and get every entity paying their fair share? And instead of cutting taxes and cutting government, actually building a government that can fund, like other governments around the world, the country infrastructure. Anybody been to China before? You seen their infrastructure? You know, that's what a national investment in infrastructure, not just for some people, but for everybody in the country, builds economic development, brings people out of poverty, and creates a growing economy.
okay, hold on, Grady. Don't go nowhere. I'm sorry. Last question, I'm sorry, is from the moment we have the funding, how long would that line take to build? From the moment we got all our funding together, from a construction kind of standpoint, how long would that take to build?
So from the point of getting the funding in place, it typically takes 10 to 12 years to deliver the project. Now that's through all of the environmental clearance process, which you have to do. You got to clear it environmentally. So all of that process would take 10 to 12 years to get it done.
Senator Fort, you're the last question. We got to close it out and turn it over to our host.
My question is, you know, MARTA has downgraded Clayton County from light rail to buses. Camilton Road from light rail to buses. They're putting, when you build out the belt line, it's at least $2.5 to $3 billion of rail on the belt line. And then you delay the project in Summerhill. It seems like the projects that are either being delayed or downgraded are in the African American community. Whereas you gonna put $200 million in the train to nowhere. Their streetcar, you ever ride a streetcar? It's a mobile homeless shelter. So can we really, and that's why Commissioner Johnson, it's so important for that kind of leadership that you're displaying today, because MARTA is not treating all neighborhoods fairly. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, Senator Ford. And I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. And this is just the first Candid discussion, because we're going to have these discussions among many groups, as you heard today. So I want to thank CEO Michael Thurmond. I want to thank our outstanding moderator, Commissioner Larry Johnson. I want to thank my husband that I wanted to take the mic away from himself, Congressman Hank Johnson, for being here tonight. And my friend and Mayor of Stonecrest, Jazzmin Cobble. I want to thank CEO, I'll drop the interim now, but CEO Collie Greenwood for being here. And my dear friend, Pastor Lee May from the DeKalb Pastors Christian Salons. And so I just want to leave you with this, is that we are partners with MARTA, and we're going to work along MARTA, because there's enough blame to go around as to why we are not where we should be. But we've learned lessons from the past, and we have established new friendships in corporations and new leadership. And so I think that if we work together, if we are informed, if we understand the issues, and if we work hard, there's nothing that we cannot do, and we can bring heavy rail to Stonecrest. That's not a heavy lift. So let's do it. Let's not be scared when they talk about billions of dollars, because in the frame of work, that's no money. You know, I mean, you have it other places, so let's have it here. So thank you for coming. I appreciate you all, and we're looking forward to our next Candid conversation.